So this is the deal. I got rid of that. All right, great. Let me get that then. No, because I'm gonna pause share is what I'm gonna do.
Yeah, I'll share.
There we go. That's really the useful thing to do. And actually, if I just use this window, I think I can bring it back. What? Why is this happening? And that I didn't mean to do either. Okay. Fine. This site can't be reached. That's fine. And then where did this go then? I am sorry, everybody. Life is
Good.
complicated, it turns out.
We aren't looking at what you're saying, but if it's a thing I could help with, you could describe it. I guess I did just go look at it.
No, I can do it. And where's the pinned items? Pinned items.
Oh, are you just trying to go into Slack to
To
respond to this, the thing we just did?
Teams. No, I'm trying to
We have pinned items in Teams.
yeah, we do. I'm trying to get the Vermont financial demo so I can show you, which is easier than describing it.
Okay.
But there we go. Oh, God. Okay. So I think you can share again.
I have been sharing the whole
I
time.
know.
You just need
I
to.
will
Sorry.
resume.
Okay.
sharing.
Sorry.
There we go. Okay.
Yes.
Great. All right. So in the Vermont thing, we have this kind of table where it says amount paid by you, amount paid by someone else, and total amount. We have a bunch of these tables. They go on forever.
Yeah.
Not forever, but long enough. So I assume we don't want, I think Vermont might be the only thing with this kind of thing. So I'm planning to subclass.
Okay.
And I'm just trying to think of the architecture we want to do, because we could do a thing where we collect two parallel lists, right? One total household, one amount paid by someone else. That's the way they want to collect it. But, and I did stuff for that. It was kind of nuts. Let's see, house expenses, there are any, it was like fake collecting the paid by other person. I like doing, where is it? I just did this, honestly. Here we go. Like a total, like abusing I in a terrible way. So when we get the I for the household expense total, we also set stuff for the paid by other total I, which is not created.
That's fine. That looks fine to me.
Yeah.
100% code I would write, because this is how DocSimple makes you do things. Like,
yeah.
so okay, yeah.
I was just, this isn't a model I like. I'd rather have a model where I have like rent or mortgages, it has this and it has this, and then you can use methods to get the totals, right? So one, there's that discussion. Do you want to discuss that first, or does that make sense and you just want to move on?
So is the discussion just that you want to put it into a single class? Like you want one thing to have all of this information?
Well, I want, instead of having two parallel arrays, that's one model, right? One model is to have two parallel arrays with the sources, with the same sources, etc. And sometimes there's no amount paid by someone else. So
sometimes that's zero. Yeah.
or to have, so one is to go down the columns, another is to go across the rows instead, as far as data structure goes. Make an array of rent, mortgages, property taxes, blah, blah, electricity, so on. And have each of those have an amount paid by someone else and a total amount. And then you use methods to get these and this, and use methods to add them up. So it's just a different data structure.
So,
and I'm trying to think which would be easier for, because this little block here would have to be repeated, which we might be able to make it a generic object, I think, but for every single one of these, right? Like, and will other people be able to understand enough of what's going on here to use it appropriately, right? Like, for example, is this going to be clear to Chris? Or to Caroline? Putting this kind of random block in here, and how to access the various things. Then again, will another module with another class be very clear?
No, that's, yeah, like, so my quick answers to this are array is simpler. Array is so much simpler than like trying to make an entire extra class around it. And if you want to still have methods, we could still write like a standalone method that's like some, I can't think of a good name.
The problem isn't for getting the values. The problem is for setting the values, right? Because you end up doing this wild thing, right? This is the thing that I'm trying to fix. I'm not trying to fix the this thing, which I think is totally fine. It's whatever. It's not that complicated. I'm trying to fix having to deal with this thing. And the idea would be like, there would be a shared expense that would have a total, a partial, or a pay or one or something, and a difference or a pay or two. Right? So you could get those amounts easily times per year that way. And then you would have a list of them where you could get individual sources, and you would also be able to get, you'd be able to get the total, the partial, and the difference for this as well. So, you would, and you would just do, ideally, the expense, the shared expense dot gather, though I'm not sure how to do that yet. And then you would get the whole expense for each one and the partial expense for each one, which you don't have to collect because partial, yeah. And this has to be different. Instance name, something like that. I don't remember what it is. And maybe I have to import instance name. I don't know that either.
You do. But I still hold that like there is still complicated
but then you would
logic
just do,
in your
you would just
interview
do dot
for-
gather, right? And you would be able to just reference like whole expense and partial expense to gather those dot value, right? And you'd be able to get the totals, the times per year and based on sources and stuff like that. Just be a
Right.
different way of interacting with it. But this is the main thing. You'd be able to collect the whole expense and the partial expense and have a list of objects with those.
If you're still keeping the expenses separate, like. I don't know. I guess they're separate under another thing, but like,
Well, how, like, supposing I use this class. How do I want to use it, right? I want to do like house expenses dot gather. And what that would mean was house expenses dot I dot whole expense dot value. Then if house that has partial partial, like that would replace all of this, right? So that's kind of what I'm talking about.
I mean, I don't know. My thing is it's still like you're the parallel list you were saying, like you already had it working and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah, like you have to still have this, like essentially like the code complexity is somewhere. Like the fact that you have to have two of these things has to go somewhere. And it's either going to be like in the module, which like no one touches modules. Like people understand that much less than they do the YAML.
yeah.
And so that's why I'm hesitant to like give Vermont a bespoke, like, here's your own class. If they want to change it, or if it ever breaks, then like it comes straight back to us. And I don't think Chris would want to like try and figure out or
Yeah,
debug
but
everything.
nobody's gonna understand this either.
I don't
They'll
think
have
that's
more
true. I
access
think,
to edit it. You think someone will understand this?
yeah, it's complicated, like, yeah, but it's there, and it's how DocAssemble works. Like, okay, I understand value, it probably gets called, like something gets triggered by that. Like if we have, I think if you have comments, then like, yeah, I think someone could work their way through it. It would take a while, but I think they would, and that's the key part, is like whether or not they'd be confident enough to do that. Adding a lot of extra classes in would do a lot. And there is like, I agree with the issue of like having to do this multiple times. I think you might be able to do it generic, and I could think of a way that you could like make a class that does like make an extension class that like the only thing that's in the Python code is like, oh, you have paid by other references, like expense references totals. And so you would have, instead of like an expense list, you'd have like poor names, but you'd have like dependent expense list, where and then once you have that, you can make it generic. But
Like, how would it be? But that's what I thought I was describing here. Are you describing something else?
I'm describing something else. I'm describing something where you don't even, like the class code is like 5 lines long, and that's all you need, because you can rely on all of the other methods of you can rely on the generic to do it.
I feel like I want to ask, first of all, like
Mhm.
what would be those 5 lines? But
Yes.
really what I want to ask is, what would it look like when you were interacting with it here, is probably the first question to ask.
It still look like the longer one. except it would be. So the 5 lines would be something like, you have a class.
Oh, you mean it would just add the one to the other or subtract or whatever
Yeah,
to be able to get the values?
well. No, I'm saying to make it generic. Like the issue with making this thing generic is that you'd have to have like you have to have one of you can only have like a generic block over like one generic thing, essentially. It doesn't make sense to have it over 2 different generic variables.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
but you could do that. You could you could make it such that houses paid by other like has a reference to like parent house, and the parent is house expense totals. And so all of this whole block would become like x I dot source equals x dot parent I dot source, etc.
So what we're saying is we would
You might not
have
even-
house
yeah.
expenses equals not equals Yale list house expenses I equals Yale expense. And then we would say x dot I dot j.
No. It would be house expenses, like total is normal. AL expense list. I'm sending this in the Zoom chat, and then housing expenses paid by other is like AL dependent expense list. I don't even know. I don't think you would need a separate type, but you might. And then parent is housing expense total. An AL dep expense list becomes like 5 lines where you just make sure that, I mean, actually, you might not even need it to be 5 lines. You just need to like to declare the class. And if you declare the class, that also helps the generic like not cause issues and like start like that generic block starts running on other things that you don't really want it to, which is the main issue with generics. Or like is a issue with generics.
But okay, I'm just going to copy this and put it over here. But I do want to be able to interact with it in the same. I guess we don't have to interact with it in the same block. But
no, you do. This
could-
lets you interact with both of those in the same block.
But I only have one X. That's
You
the
have
thing.
one X, but now that X, housing expenses paid by other, that's going to be X. X dot parent is going to be housing expenses total. So you can just do X dot parent to get the other thing you need to reference. So it'd be, yeah, AL dep expense list, that thing there. Dot parent, yeah, it would be X dot parent I dot source, but that's the idea, yeah. Exactly, like that's what you do to get reference.
Could this work?
What is I and J there?
So I is this, which is, you know, the total versus the paid by other.
Mhm.
right? And J
Oh,
is the item in it.
um. Oh, okay, I see.
But
I
that
finally,
doesn't-
it's sorry, it took me a while to figure out what you were trying to do with that.
But it's not gonna work.
Yeah, I don't think it will work because you'd have, you don't know, you'd still have to hard code as much stuff around I, because it'd either be like, oh,
Okay,
0
I
is
got it.
always the paid by and 1 is always the other thing, or if you do a string, you definitely can't get to the other one without like hard coding exactly what the other one would be.
So hang on. Depth, if you want to call it depth.
Okay, that would work too.
Dot
Yeah.
total I x dot partial I equal dot source equals, right? That.
Yes, yeah, that is essentially the same thing. Except you have like an umbrella parent object instead of like one referencing back to the other. That's fair. I could see how that would be more.
More like thought, just thinking out, like
Yeah.
looking the
You might
language,
wanna-
the mental model.
Yeah, I think that the thing there to make sure would be like make sure that, because house expenses isn't anything you directly be able to use anymore. And so you just need to make sure that that has like a distinct enough name, since it's like you're now adding a third thing that is really just like
What do you
something that
mean?
keep you, so what you have, housing expenses total, housing expenses depth, and you have housing expenses, which like isn't actually a list of expenses like we would call everything else. And I don't know what the best name for that is, but that's kind of minor, and like as
You
long as
mean
it's,
what the name for this would be?
yeah, honestly,
Is that the question?
that is the
Okay.
question. Yeah,
Well, I can ask them what they want the name for it to be. Like,
yeah.
I think it's close enough that it just tells you, like, that's the like choice of the developer, honestly.
Yeah,
But
that's fair.
like, I think it's enough that it's like, okay, it's housing expenses. I know that housing expenses are I mean, you call it table, you know.
Table would, yeah, I think that like a minor thing just to have that. It's mostly just the fact that like there now has to be this third new thing. Yeah, and making it DA object, it should work, but it's just one of those, it could cause some other weird issues. But I guess now that I
Really?
think about it, well, yeah, because so it's, if it's DA object, that means every time. Maybe it's not as big of an issue, since you're always gonna have dot total and dot depth. What's the very bottom? Like, what's the final thing that's set by this block? The generic block?
The complete, it would be like x dot total dot complete equals true. So I mean, this would be using complete attribute equals complete, right? And it could be like
Yeah, we could change that
auto
to whatever.
gather equals false, and I don't remember what the other thing needs to be. Gathered equals true, or something like that.
Yeah. That's
I don't
fair.
remember exactly what it is. Do you?
I do not know.
Okay. And then, like, I'm just trying to think this through the whole way. Then we don't need this.
All right, the Weaver is down
Okay,
apparently.
understood. The
Yeah,
Weaver's
about it.
down?
Yeah,
Well, that sucks. Do you want to go explore that for the moment?
not really. I'm just getting thinking about it.
Oh.
Um,
Okay.
so we should finish this.
Should this be get other value or dot value?
Is get other value a thing
Value,
that you call somewhere?
Get other value.
It's like set by a question or is like the continue button.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a continue button field, but I don't remember why I did that instead of just dot value.
if it's not required, I guess by default it's required, so that should be fun.
Because I said it either way.
Yes, yeah.
So I don't know why I did.
I don't know. Yeah, that's never super
Oh.
clear.
Yeah, I don't know. This I feel a bit more comfortable about. Everything is gonna have to change a bunch of stuff, but
Mhm.
for now I'm going to comment out all of this stuff. I still here I just like that it's like a 4-line thing, right? And a 5-line thing.
Yeah,
That-
but I think the issue is that it's not actually 5 lines. It's a whole lot of
Yeah.
extra stuff in the Python, and it's like that's the trade-off there. It's one of those things that if this was going to be used more than it is now, or like by more than just Vermont, I'd consider the trade-offs between like making a complete separate module different. But like you said, it doesn't seem like there's going to be that, and I think it's more of if we can do this, and if while we're doing this we could think of something easier that like we could add to make things more composable like this without having to add like extended modules and stuff like that, we can do that, and we can like make expenses, take other things. I don't know. I can't think of anything right now, but essentially, like I think trying to stick to like the recipe book of, hey, you need something really custom and like multiple lists of keeping track of things, just use multiple of them, and like here's a like real life example of how we've done something like that. I think that's more useful for other people extending on this than
Yeah.
rewrite the whole class, even if rewriting the whole class is like cleaner and nicer
Yeah.
in the YAML. Yeah, it's sort of, I don't know.
It's such a weird data structure that you're like forced into.
Yeah, it's rough.
Um,
I don't know. If Dockism will make writing classes easier, then I'd consider it. But writing classes is also like a whole other thing, and Dockism does not make it easy at all. So
yeah.
like
I
it's
wonder
also
why
it's also wouldn't be it would be it's one of those like it would slow down. It slows down like anytime you start installing stuff when you have to make Python files. Like if you can keep it all in the YAML, then much better.
It's true. Like I did with in the playground stuff, though I think it does slow down the interview a bit there. Yeah. I wonder why, like I'm trying to pinpoint mentally why it is easier for people to look at something like this than to look at that complexity in a module. You know what I mean? Just like,
Mhm.
I mean, it makes sense to me. It does. I just don't know why.
I think my take is that it's slightly different enough that like the module is, one, the module is hidden, it's just a separate file. And two, like, you look at this and at least you gotta know how DocAssemble works to like know when this gets triggered and what's actually happening. But once you do, you know, like the flow, and it's like when you go into a Python module, all of a sudden, like, what's the flow of a class, and like, how am I supposed to read this file? I feel like that's just a bit more difficult. And like, class declarations and functions are all just different enough syntax that you don't use, that it throws people off enough, is my guess, but I don't know.
Yeah. But it's not like they both don't have a lot of moving pieces. You know?
Yeah. Unclear.
Though I will say, people find generic objects really confusing.
That is fair.
I wish there was a way, we want to, I think if we want to think about like ways to make the playground better, a way of understanding what a generic object and index variable is doing might be a good way of thinking, yeah, a good thing to try and think about. Okay. All right. Guess this is a way of making it generic. Then the end, yeah, should be approximately the same. Total. Total, which I don't really love, but whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I can try and make this work. And this, honestly, I mean, there is something about this that I'm like, how exactly do I, you know, wrangle this into something that's actually useful? There's a
Mhm.
lot of feeling, there's a lot of like things that feel like kludges. Kludges. I just, okay. Good enough. Let me make sure my computer isn't falling apart yet. Okay, so far so good. Right. So there are, I mean, do we want to try and approach? Did we tell Quentin we would try and talk about the issue, or did we say we'd wait?
I did say we'd start looking into it.
I don't know how far we'll get. It's kind of not.
Well, then let's do that at least.
Yeah.
Where is it? It's in back end development, right? I'm gonna mark them here. Well, let's go here first. Copy link here and go places. Break's ability to add custom items, need to revisit this. Adding menu items compatible with interviews that want to add their own extra items.
Mhm.
Could you share and point to the code that we're talking about here? Are we talking about literally in the navigation menu?
We are literally talking about the navigation menu. Yeah, let me pull it up. I don't know where it is. Maybe I can search. Yeah, this is the code.
Okay. AL visual, okay.
Start setting AL menu items. And AL menu items.
And he thinks that the reconsider is breaking things right now?
Yes.
In what way?
I don't know, which is why I'm like, I don't know if we're gonna make it anywhere because I don't know what he means by it's breaking it. Okay.
I mean,
earlier that file.
theoretically,
So we have something set to initial true. Stop it. Something set to initial true, or we have menu items equals initial true. I think menu items is a DOCA symbol thing. Is it? I don't know.
I think it is. Um, I mean, so when
Okay, yeah,
let's see how to. I mean, can't they just append? Like, why can't they just append rather? Is that because we can't reconsider? Can we do a depends on instead of a reconsider? Like, I'm not sure what reconsider is doing. That is breaking things. I mean, I assume it's making a loop somewhere because that's how reconsider tends to break things. But I haven't noticed any loops in anybody's interviews.
no.
I mean, so this is AL menu items temp. If we
Mhm.
called it something like AL menu items base, right? And then people could define their own AL menu items. Like instead, see on line 118, like in a different block, we would say AL menu items equals AL menu items base. And people could override that with their own that uses AL menu items base and adds their own stuff. Would that be sufficient?
That feels not great, but maybe that is what we need to do.
I mean, that's what we do with templates, right? Well, not exactly, but like what doesn't feel great about it?
Just because it's now 30 levels deep of we have different extensions of things.
But it's invisible unless you want to modify it, and then it's there to be modified. 3 levels deep? That where
we have
what's the
menu
third
items that
level?
is set by AL menu items, which is set by temp and base.
There wouldn't be no temp, and there wouldn't be temp. There would just be base to make the name more clear to people, so that other people could use it. I'm just saying I think
That's
we should rename
well,
it if other people are going to use it. Okay,
oh,
let's take
you're
base
saying
out
just
of
get
here. Let's take out of base out of here. Let's take that as a different discussion.
sure.
So what I'm suggesting is that instead of AL menu, instead of line 18, that's done in a separate code block. And then someone else can just overwrite it by using ale menu item 10th and then adding their own stuff or moving stuff around. And then setting ale menu item to that new value. In a different block, and it would override our block. Is this at all clear?
Well, does that work though? That's, I'm on, okay, so
Yeah,
reconsider,
because
what does,
theirs would override ours.
well, no, the issue that I think is, when does reconsider run? So I'm always like, it's different in different contexts. I never remember. Should know these things. Reconsider runs. Okay, if it's just set to true, we'll always reconsider the values of any of the variables set by this block. Every time the interview is assembled, it will forget about everything else.
So this is trying to make it so that different pages can have different menu items.
Yes, yeah.
Got it. And what is broken about it? That would be really good to know.
Yeah, it's not clear what's broken about it.
Yeah, the issue doesn't say.
Never does.
Well, sometimes it does. It's not fair. It breaks the ability to add custom items. Okay, this is what I think is going on. And I
Yep.
do think ours would fix it. As long as we did a depends on. Okay, so let me try and just articulate this.
Okay.
If a person defines their own menu item,
Mhm.
menu items thing, whenever the page loads, that reconsider block is run and whatever they did is destroyed. That is not menu, just so you know.
I'm not trying to write
Did
it.
a random name.
I
Okay.
know, yes. Okay,
So if you try to make your own menu item, your own menu with AL menu items or something.
scaffolding to do everything going.
Sure. Then your AL menu items variable will be overwritten every time. Oh, what does that have to look like? No, you got rid of it. You used it to search for
Oh, thank you.
reconsider.
Oh,
The documentation about reconsider is what I see.
okay.
Just copy that. That's great.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for. I was like, I don't remember exactly the format it was at the end. Okay, so you're saying if someone tries to do this, that's what's not working?
Maybe.
Let's see. Yeah, it's one of those things I'm not clear how
You
we're supposed to.
condense things down so well. Just kudos. You're like, this is the minimal example.
Minimal examples, always great to do things.
Where
Okay.
is it?
It's not here. There should be a Google thing. And there's not.
Try changing AL menu items to that instead.
Doing this to AL menu items instead, you mean?
Yeah, and then do. I don't know. Where are we setting menu items in? Well, I guess maybe we're doing that. Wait, where in our code are we setting menu items in the assembly
Here.
line code?
Right above that reconsider menu temp or menu
So,
failed.
so this should override it.
I don't know if it does. Well, yeah, I guess it should. It's not. Wait, is that the right one? Yeah, that's the right one. So how Christian can ask from a language municipal true. Blah, 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 all the language things happen now. That's gonna be fun and add a lot of extra blocks to these. Write initial code. It's not, well, it's okay, so it still runs menu items. Setting in our code, which is fair and I think should still happen. I don't think we can get rid of that. But now we're setting AO menu items after this already happens. Initials happen top down,
Okay,
which is backwards from every other way you like overwrite things. But what it should have still been working like this, right? Because this will also run after that.
yeah.
Menu items is still being set. And ours just never runs. Okay, so menu items get set, needs AL menu items. It gets them from here. It goes back to setting language. It does metadata stuff. It runs the menu items again. And then it goes straight to our mandatory block. It does not attempt.
Because I guess menu items is already defined or something.
Yes, so. And the code block is it not special? It's gonna
Well,
be
that
above
says
the budget.
mandatory true, not initial equals true. What if we did mandatory true?
Then that would only set it once. It might set it, this might work, but it's only gonna set
We
it
could also
once in
make
the
it
interview.
reconsider equals true. I don't know.
It's still not there. I have no idea why it should be, but yeah, mandatory true definitely should have done it.
Maybe that happened before the other stuff.
It's not.
Not there at all.
Yeah.
It's wild.
We have people there.
Huh.
My only guesses from this is that DocAssemble treats menu items differently somehow, and it probably does. Oh, geez.
Because everything is an exception in DocAssemble.
Yes. Menu items are static. Yeah, it. Okay, only look in the Python files because that is, oh, and then allow differences. Okay, so there are a few places where it sets menu item, or like it's treating the thing menu item separately. And I can't tell if there's like a lot of them. Parse .py and extras. Extra sections. Sorry, I'm realizing I'm sharing my browser screen and I can't really switch that super easily. Okay,
Mm.
I'm gonna go with that's a little complicated to try and figure out where, when exactly menu items get set and then like never reconsidered.
But what I wish we could try is my suggestion,
Which one? Oh, sorry. Yeah, I thought you were right.
where, well, we can, I guess, and it didn't work.
We hadn't tried reconsider and mandatory. We just were trying mandatory.
Okay,
But I guess if mandatory doesn't work, I don't think reconsider will
yeah,
do extra stuff because mandatory should like always work. It's weird that it does not.
what if we didn't do initially equals true, we just did fail menu items equals. Nope.
Which is very lacking.
Why is it still using? Or still, I haven't seen what
Oh.
it's using.
Okay, no, it actually, well, it does try to set it. I'm not missing it. Am I not like looking in the wrong place for the menu items? I've sworn they're supposed to go here. Yeah, it doesn't actually execute the other ones.
So why aren't we seeing?
Oh, because this is the first page. And there's
Mhm.
some extra stuff. It's not the first page. No, I don't know. I'm copying this to be like 20 things long because we do extra stuff. Depending on if it's the first page or not. It's hard coded to what's in the list. Oh, jeez. Okay, it's the worst list I've ever seen. 2, 3. All right. Okay, yeah, that's why, because it was manually cutting off half of those. Okay, let's try our
Why-
examples.
Was it cutting off half of those?
Because of this, which is our code, where it's hard assuming that the first two links are always start over and something else, I guess, I think is what our default are. Here, if I have this open. Yeah, by our defaults are always start over and exit and delete. And
Oh.
we're hard assuming that that is always the case. And so we're always skipping the first two.
Because where do they go else? Like, where did those, why are those there then? If they never, if they always get skipped?
They don't always get skipped. They only get skipped
Just
on
on the
like the
first
first
page,
two
okay.
screens, maybe, I guess. Step 0 and step 1, maybe. I don't know. It should have been just the first screen, but it wasn't showing up on the second screen either. So I would go to buy and I'd still only see 2 and 3.
Mhm.
Maybe it's because it's an event that it screws up somehow. But either
I
way,
mean,
so okay.
do we know
This
that they
works.
ever will appear? Anyway,
I can add a middle. Middle screen.
Oh, that's not- yeah.
Looks like I'm gonna save it. Oh, it's probably my screen sharing is causing the issue. Yeah, it's the fact that it skips it on the first two screens, which is weird. I guess another hard assumption that we always have the welcome screen and then the first screen is of every interview is like, here's some more information about the interview screen. And so we're assuming that people are on those 2 pages. They don't need to start over because they haven't done anything. Makes sense. It's a
okay,
little
we
silly,
could
but-
change how we do that.
But well, they're valid assumptions for our stuff. I can't quite think of a way to stop making them. They're just annoying when we're trying to. They were just annoying when we're trying to like keep this. I also
Well, we
thought
could make our own
started
adjustment. We could make our own adjustment, like we could do something different in the, like we could make sure they're always put there, right? Like instead of cutting off the first two items, when it's the first or second screen, we can instead, when it's not the first or second screen, add those two items. Therefore,
that's
not
true.
make any assumptions about the place where they're coming from, right?
That's fair. I'm not super sure that's the
Hmm?
we need to be doing, but
Okay,
and also, okay, so this does seem to work fine if it's just reconsider true AL menu items.
in which case, my suggestion,
Mhm.
I think, would work.
Of
Where
base.
ours just would define AL menu items itself in a different block.
Mhm.
And then these people could override where they define the menu items. No,
That's fair. We can try this super quick.
okay, I don't think I don't think it's gonna work because to get AL menu items, it'll run everything before it. And then this will be redefined. But you can try it.
What were you saying was going to work then?
If we do AL menu items in a separate block and a person, okay. Where can I put this?
I know,
Um,
okay. I know what you're talking about putting in a separate block. You're talking about this, like these two things go in a separate block, and we set AL menu items equal to like AL menu items base or something, or like ours like temp plus base for whatever
No,
else.
there's no,
everyone else was.
base is not separate. I'm just saying we'll
Well-
change the name of AL menu items temp. That's all. So forget base, just pretend it doesn't exist because it's too
Okay.
confusing,
Well,
right?
there was other reasons I was considering base, but
Okay,
what, but either way, like what else do you mean? I'm doing this in a separate tab. And I'm pushing that to be installed because it has to be installed for us to test it. But what else do you think we need to do in Playground?
the person would just, I'm gonna do this, just the person would make their own configuration. Right? Like I don't know exactly how to make it more clear, but like instead of just, we would put it in a separate block,
Mhm.
and instead of them, they could replace it with a whole thing that does a bunch of code that's like, I add this in this place and I add that in that place, or I just do my own completely custom menu.
Mhm.
And then I set AL menu items to that. They don't redefine temp, right? So let me try and come up with a concrete example. Menu items temp dot append. Don't go away yet. URL blah save blah blah. AL menu items goals. So, right, they would do their own thing, and then they would set AL menu items.
Chat's not actually. I realize you said something.
Okay. If you put that code on the screen, I can describe more stuff, but it's just hard to talk about it when it's abstract. I suppose. That's a code block, by the way.
Yeah,
So they just do their own magic, right? They can make a new list. They can make whatever it is, right?
mhm.
And they don't have to do any other code. And it's reconsider equals true, of course. With reconsider true
On this one.
on either one. They're both the same thing. The second one is just a more concrete example.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I missed that. And you're saying that goes in there?
Yep.
Code? Okay.
And that will override the code block. You know what, they might not need even reconsider equals true, but because I think that might create a loop.
Let's try it.
Well, we can't,
Yeah, we can.
but it's not
I'm-
going to do anything.
I am actively modifying how this works in assembly line now.
Oh. Is
That's
this
what I
a
was-
oh, it's a local server. Okay,
Yes.
got it. And you're just installing straight from the
Yeah,
thing
yeah.
instead of from, okay, got it.
Can you reconsider on both of those? Maybe I should stop. Um. Full desktop. Close all.
Take the plunge.
So this is what I changed. It's now we have code block sets AL menu items temp. If reconsider true, AL menu items temp. Delete, probably don't get the delete.
Oh,
How
and
we
that's
do it.
reconsidered true as well?
Well, I think they both have to be reconsidered true, otherwise
But-
nothing gets changed.
Okay, that's what I'm afraid we'll get. I see.
Like we need both.
I think you do need to delete it every time.
Yeah.
So-
Okay, yeah, you're right. That's-
And they would also need to delete it.
Oh, okay, they'll have to do that. I guess just deleting it is the same as reconsider. Like delete is a happier way around that. Okay. So this should have all of the custom ones. Oh,
Oh, yeah.
what I do wrong? I don't know, because I gotta wait 5 seconds for it to tell me. Wrong.
What? So maybe it's overloaded. So maybe it did do an infinite loop.
No, that's not overloaded. That's a
Okay.
why did it change from to ROM on my local thing? I don't think that was
From
something
type-
very that was something off of my local thing for some reason.
It says NOM typing instead of from typing.
Yes, sorry, I saw that and I'm
Oh,
doing
I
it
see.
again. I was just like, I don't know why that changes in my file.
Oh,
I've never
weird.
once wanted it to.
Happen, sure.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
for-
Well, at least we figured out how it's broken, so that was cool. I think we did a good job. Maybe we can add a comment about how it's broken or something. So future people know what the heck we're talking about. Still an error? Nope, it hasn't finished loading yet.
Oh. Okay, there we go. Still installing.
Ale Kilnwise, like, there's a lot of little stuff to do, but I feel like random input testing is where it's at this point.
Mhm.
I think that would be exciting to work on.
Okay, so that works and is all of them.
There we go.
So that's our suggestion. I guess.
You sound disappointed.
Well, I'm like.
I thought it
we
was
went-
like
we-
good.
We went all over the place and I still don't really know like what, if we figured out why it wasn't working in the first place. This is why, it's the hacking parts that I don't like. It's like, I don't like making hacks when I don't understand why it wasn't working in the first place.
Yeah.
Why does docassemble seem to?
Oh, I think it uses the same name exception to define menu items. And so once it's defined, it doesn't redefine it. And then the rest of it is just because it does initial blocks before other blocks. Like from top to bottom rather, as opposed to bottom to top.
Mhm.
That seems to me to explain what we saw. Yeah, I mean, we started around 10:20, so it's like an hour and 20 minutes in or something, or 10:15. It's before, it
We
was
stopped at
before
some point, though.
1:44. Oh, that's true.
Which is why I
But
was
it
like, I
was
don't know.
before 11:44 is when we start, like 11.
I'm going
I
to just
guess.
leave that. I'm
Yeah.
not gonna bother trying to get an exact
Okay.
time.
You know, you can give it the code a type of diff and it'll
Does that work? Okay,
format
okay.
it.
I did not
Yeah,
know.
it's so weird. I did not, me either. It at least worked somewhere.
Yeah.
I finally had someone do it on a repo that I had control over. And I could edit their code and I saw that. Maybe I'm hallucinating though. Maybe that was somewhere else. The developer can override it in another interview, not us.
Yeah,
I just
okay. fair,
want to
yeah.
point that out because that may be confusing. The diff worked. Huh. I'm so excited about that. I love the diff is a thing. Wow, that feels like a really productive little while. If we're satisfied with those we could call it a day, or we could go on to AL Kiln stuff or talk about e-filing stuff. I know that at some point you wanted to start passing on the knowledge about e-filing. So I
Yeah.
feel that that might need to happen sometime soon. If that's something you still want to do, or
I mean, I don't know how to best actually go about doing it, because it's like everyone will. I don't know. I don't think you'll be the one like actively like deploying things and stuff. And I can tell you all these things.
well, I thought
I
it
don't
was
think we can
partially
be-
to like improve the documentation. To like, have someone like beta test the documentation. That was my main.
There are a
goal.
few levels to things that I need to do. And I'm more concerned about the like core stuff being lost than there's documentation and it's there. And I'm more concerned about like, okay, no one knows how to run the server. Or like, oh, something goes wrong on the server. How do you start debugging things?
Okay, is that documentation we can write somewhere, maybe on the repository itself, or?
It's mostly on the repository itself. But I'm saying is like, if there's no good way for like you to beta test it. You could try, but it's a lot of like stuff like specific secret Tyler things that like we need to have only on like the AWS stuff.
And I would not be able, I'm not an organization that could use Tyler, so.
No, and that's like part of this issue is this is all open source. And it is all open source, but like no one can use it because you have to have Tyler say you can use it and like give you all these specific keys. And they don't make it easy. I have a
should
whole
write a
lot of
whole article.
documentation. I have a lot of documentation here. It can definitely be better. Like if you're interested in reading that and
I was thinking
being
more-
like, this is confusing and doesn't make any sense, I could do that, but it's just a matter of like, oh, like you've completely misdescribing X thing, which like you wouldn't notice that I completely misdescribing X thing until like you try to
I
deploy
tried to
something and
use
it
and
goes
I
wrong.
couldn't
Yeah.
do it. Yeah, I was thinking of like the developer documentation in getting to know the code you had written. And like why you wrote it one way as opposed to another way.
So that's all ADRs, which I have those two.
Okay.
And they're like 80% filled out. But that's essentially like, it's not code level stuff because it changes. So I don't do that with my code level stuff because
code
it changes so much.
often.
But I did do that with like, oh, why are we using CFX instead of anything else? Why are we using Java instead of Python? Like a giant question. That's all documented in like the first one. There's and like there's several other ones in terms of like, oh, mostly they boil down to why are we using this library and not this other library? Because that's most of the decisions after you have Java and you're building it with Maven.
I like how some of these are like, did he just press on the keyboard like random buttons? Like
What?
SLF4J. I'm like, was that a typo? Like, is that
Oh,
a random
no.
name that he? Nope, it's a real. And yeah, no, I get it.
I mean, that's yeah.
It's just hilarious to me. Okay, so that's I've done so much work on this. This is wild, Bryce. This is incredible. Is a .example file red? It is red. Okay. If you want, I can start trying to read through these. I don't know if that would be useful to you.
It would be. Like this is definitely like the ADR stuff is. If you're interested in reading it, you can go for it. It's definitely going to be a little dry, but like if there's missing context that you're like, oh, what the hell is this? I can like add a few things that explain what that is.
It's partially, is it written for?
It's written for developers.
Yeah, but
Sorry.
is it written like how much prior knowledge would I have to have? Because am I even gonna understand anything having not run a
Yeah,
server
that's, I mean,
before.
that's the biggest issue with this is so like, I wrote it mostly just getting my thoughts down.
Mhm.
It's probably takes more Java knowledge, but like no one here knows Java. That's one of the issues with like this whole project in general is that
Yeah,
we had no good choices of things to do it in. Python did not support enough, like none of the Python libraries like could actually communicate with Tyler. So we were stuck between like C#, a thing that I personally don't know, and like Java, which I kind of
Somebody
know
else.
and no one else knows. I think like Quentin knew a little bit of C#. He
So
also
what
knows
was
the
what
small amount of Java, but like not a ton.
what was
Um,
Quinn's proposal about moving it to something else now, which we're not gonna do? I just wanted to understand what his proposal was. He was
Well,
like, well,
I
let's
don't
do it
know.
in something now, and you're like, I don't have time to port it all to.
Oh, he wanted to take all of the doc assemble parts and put them in on the server side, the Java side.
Oh, really?
Yes.
But more on the Java side, interesting.
Because yeah, well, because it comes down to
Better
like the Java side
control.
is all of this thing, but like the doc assemble side is still nuts complicated because it's doc assemble and anything
Yeah.
slightly complicated gets really bad. And
So
so
at least it would be consolidated all in one.
yes, and his idea was that if we had it on that side, then like, oh, can deal with all of these fewer doc assembly things. We don't have as many issues with it. We probably
Okay.
can't develop as fast or whatever, but there's a whole lot of other issues with it. But like, there are some benefits to it. But yeah, that was his like
Hmm.
proposal and what he was thinking.
Okay, I see. Suppose I could try to learn Java. But,
Yeah.
like, who knows if I'll be around? So
Well, yeah,
there's
so I was gonna say
there's
like,
an infrastructure for this here.
say what?
Like somebody would need to be hired ideally, who knows
Yeah, and
Java
they are
because,
hiring someone, but
okay,
like I would say this should be understandable to use someone who knows programming.
okay.
I would like it to be at
Should isn't,
least.
okay, so you would like it to be.
Yeah,
So
so if you
me
read through
reading
and
it
you
would
don't
still be
understand anything,
useful.
yeah, like
Okay,
there's still gonna be a lot of like, I'm not gonna get rid of like specific references to libraries, but like you know what a library is, you know how to kind of use libraries. That should be enough. Like if
ideally, okay,
ideally, like someone of your skill level should be able to read it, which like you, Quentin and David, I think are all on like similar skill levels for like knowing programming.
okay.
You each have
Well,
you each have your different
sure,
like expertise levels,
sure.
but y'all are all similar level at the
So
very least in terms of
approaching this. Sure.
yes, in terms of approaching this, y'all should all have like enough skills. And so I think you are a good example, even if you don't know Java, you're a great example for like if you know this and would be able to read and understand these, then
General
Quentin or David would
concept.
be able to do. And so I guess that's
Okay.
yeah, I guess that's the best thing. If you want to start reading through those, and list like send me any of your feedback, make issues for them if however you want to do it, or just send me a list of bullet points that's like I didn't get this. You
I
can do
might
that.
I might make one issue that has bullet points.
That's fine.
Because
Yeah.
I will need someplace to write it down, but I don't think like making a lot, because I'll need to change it. So making a lot of issues and then closing it and making new issues seems just disruptive as opposed to.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, but I think this is probably the best way because it's like that's what I'm like hesitant of like, yeah, I could try to explain Java to you. It will be difficult, like, and it might
Yeah.
not be useful. And so this is probably the best place of like the next higher level docs in general are a bit more like practical in terms of you want to do this thing. But like besides for the one that is specifically talking about how to generate Java code, all of these other ones should be pretty simple in terms of reading through and like, hey, if you don't know anything about how to set this up, here's how to set this up. Here's how you do Docker, all these other things. Here's how the codes are set up and whatnot. And so
Okay.
if you also want to read through those and add those to your things to try to understand, you can do that as well. But
I'll
whatever
prioritize
you
the
have time.
whatever you want me to prioritize is what I'll prioritize, which is tell me if it's ADR or the other stuff. and then I'll work on it. I am a
Honestly, probably the
slow
other stuff.
reader. The other stuff? Okay, so not
ADRs
the
are-
ADR stuff.
Yeah, ADRs are like,
The
we're at the
whys
point-
and- Yeah,
yeah, we're at the point where it's like, it's useful to have them. And they also are probably the things that I will forget about sooner rather than later.
but
However,
it's a decision
I-
that's been made. So,
yeah, if I've missed something, then I've likely already forgotten about it and have to like spend 20 minutes refreshing my memory on why I did something. So
yeah,
the other things are definitely more important in terms for just like how to get going.
okay.
And those might require a bit more Java knowledge than the ADRs. But it's useful to note where they should and where they shouldn't. They all require Docker knowledge, but not all of them should require Java knowledge. So
Okay. So, yeah, in Docker, I might be able to suss out somewhere else.
okay.
Okay, so
Thank
I'll
you.
see if I can do that. Yeah. I mean, you've just done
No-
so much freaking work on
No
this.
worries if you like you start it and you're like, this is make the issue of like this is not readable if it's just like very clearly not. And
Okay.
I'll put it on a thing for me to do and try and look at it. But if
Or
it's
may-
okay,
or
then
maybe at that point we can talk about it together and
Yeah,
I can
yeah.
like help narrow down what it is
Mhm.
that I'm struggling with.
Yep.
Okay, I'll give it a good faith effort. I might
Thank
be
you.
able
No
to
rush
do
on
it
that.
this week. Yeah,
yeah, no rush on that because I'll be doing a lot of, because honestly, though, while this is important, this is not quite my top priority. And my top priority is making sure all of the code is good for like the
working,
migrations
okay.
we have to be doing. So they don't
Did
like,
you-
yeah,
Did you try getting Elkiln working with the environment variables? Because I can't tell if something's wrong with the environment variables on the EFS e-filing.
no, I haven't
or
touched that yet.
Maybe that doesn't matter.
Sorry, I haven't touched that yet.
Okay, because I can't tell if it's not working because the variables.
Neither
Are
neither
not
can I,
defined
because this is one of those
or-
things if I run locally and it works fine, and then it runs on
Mm.
GitHub and it doesn't work fine. So I don't know.
Okay,
Like, and I'm not, and that's one of the, like, I'm just not gonna try and debug on GitHub because it's not useful enough for me.
unless we
right.
can implement. Do we want to discuss that? Though I know we've discussed a lot. I still feel up for it and excited about it. Like, I don't know, I'm
That
very
Docker on
excited about a
GitHub?
lot of this, but like, yeah, doing Docker on GitHub, do we want to try and do that? Because that could be
What
like
about it?
really cool.
Oh,
Just like try and integrate it in a new branch or something to try and actually make it
Mhm.
like really work. Like
yeah,
to try and
yeah,
add
I
it
think the
in.
thing I had done, I had made sure I have gotten it such that you can load a config.
Mhm.
But my like quick and dirty way of testing did not work out super well because I was hard coding it in several different places.
Okay. Like I see other
Right.
problems with it in like more complex situations, like things that you've installed on the server and also like stuff like, using an older version of Docassemble that matches your actual version of Docassemble and other stuff like that. But
But that's
I
all,
think for a naive, like just for like something simple, I think that could still work. Like there are problems with it, but there are problems with the current system we have too. So
well, and that's the thing is that I think all of the problems with this are problems with the current system of how we run Docker. Like,
yes, well,
because it all comes like you said, like if it's just, oh, we're running older versions of Docassemble. Why are we running older versions of Docassemble? Because we don't ever want to update because it's bad at updating and it will break things.
or
and,
like why isn't it possible to run older versions of like why is it so hard to revert, right? Like why is
Yeah.
it that we always have to install the newest version of Docassemble, et cetera, et cetera?
Exactly. Like there are just issues that argue like it's not Jonathan's responsibility for this. This is all open source, but like someone needs to be doing these things if this many people are trying to run it, and it's annoying and difficult even for us. But yeah, so like that's an issue. I still don't think the installing like, oh, what else is installed on your thing? I do think that's like, that's important and that's a neglected thing of like, oh, your
Should
requirements should
install it
be.
on GitHub.
Yeah, and again, no one does that because the playground doesn't make it super clear. And because I hate that multi-select in the playground. It's the worst thing in the world.
Mm,
And so like no one ever wants to click it because they know if you click it, it will unclick everything else that you do. And it's a giant drop down of every package. That's you get to see 2 of them at a time.
Yeah.
All that to say,
People, we
yeah.
should have like a page on the, like Suffolk that's like, don't save it, just reload the page. Like, how do you deal with the fact that you accidentally clicked on? Yeah.
We should fix it.
But
We should fix it. I
we
want to
should
fix it.
fix it.
Some of the like checkbox stuff or like the custom multi-select stuff that we've been doing,
Could fix it.
the UI is good enough. I just need to figure out if it's how easy it would be to convince Jonathan to add that as like an upstream dependency in
Okay.
Docassemble.
Does
Um,
it let you multi-select things? And like, yeah, it does. It lets you select
Yeah.
multiple items and click them and unclick them and stuff like that.
Exactly. And it's just a matter of being able to see all of them at once might get a bit much, but it
If
needs
you
to happen.
if you need another voice of agreement, or if you want, I can initiate it. I'm
think
very
yeah.
unsuccessful at, I feel I'm unsuccessful at convincing him of anything, but
Yes. All this to
Um,
say, these are all like knock-on effects of
yeah.
I would like to do that. I am not going to
Yeah.
get to do that. Like straight up, I'm not going to get to do that for the next 2 months.
Yeah.
And if I am, I shouldn't be, and I'm getting
Should
very
be working
distracted.
on something else. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. And I will maybe I'll have a chance to do it like after September when I'm like between jobs or at a new place.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, I say get a part-time job so you can spend most of your time working on our stuff. Yes. So do you want to, in like the quote unquote time we have left or whatever, try and move that forward, move the doc assemble like in GitHub forward?
Oh, sure.
'Cause that
Sure,
would be
we
like
have the time and we
so
could do
sweet, and I
that.
really want e-filing to work in this way. Like,
Yeah,
really like to get it to a point where it's working.
I can show you what I have now.
Okay.
Um,
What didn't, yeah, never mind. You'll tell me what you need to tell me. I'm just like, what broke? Tell me all the things. Okay.
Okay,
What you
so
have. And the file you linked, oh, it looked so simple, and I have to assume you suffered to get it that simple, but like
no,
it's
not really
like
actually, but
20 lines of code or something, and you didn't have to work that hard. Oh, geez. Like I look at it
No.
and I'm like, maybe I could have figured it out. I don't know. Though I don't really like the bash. I'm looking at it and going, I have no clue how you got to the place you did with this, but
there is still some. Okay, let me share screen. Everything is reloading. Can you see this Docassemble weekly check-in, etc. modified at blank by
Yes.
Quentin?
It's annoying.
It is. It's like no window is currently doing this. Here, I'm gonna switch this then. I
Are
think
you
I
on
kept
Linux or are you just on Windows?
no I'm on, and it's definitely it's a Teams thing because that comes from Teams, and it's a
Oh.
Teams Linux thing because Teams does not know how to work with Linux. I
Um,
just can't make it go away until I restart my computer, which is fun and cool and normal.
well, it's gone for me now. Yes.
Because I put it on my other screen.
Oh, great. Perfect.
So this is
Delightful. Okay.
the thing.
Oh my
It-
God, it's just so short.
Yes.
Except the command is super, like, I don't like, how did you ever discover that that's what you needed to do? I don't know.
This is half of the command that I always run. Like that
Really?
was super hard. Yeah. But yeah, so this is the one with configs that I have done, which isn't so like right now it's taking some secret that you have as your config text, which will
Okay.
contain other secrets, and which I am fairly certain the logs don't just print all of your config because that's a thing that Docassemble shouldn't do. Like you shouldn't log all of your secrets. And so,
Is, sorry, I'm thinking of
No.
ramifications, like we won't
Think
have
of
the API
ramifications.
key, but then again, we don't need to check for, but we're gonna have to make all those checks conditional on whether it's a GitHub, in GitHub or not in GitHub. Like we
So we
don't
do
need to
have
check
the
for
API key.
reload. What?
we do have the API key.
For a user API key?
Yes, so when DocAssemble starts up, you can
Okay.
pass in these three variables like admin email, admin password, API key. These can continue to be garbage because it's something that's only on GitHub and it only runs
Yeah,
for 10
sure.
minutes, so they can be whatever. But admin API key specifically, like when DocAssemble starts up, if that environment variable is available, it copies that into like when it creates the default user, when
Okay.
it starts up for the first time. And
And so
so
you've got a user API key, that's
yes,
perfect.
I don't
Then you
actually
then have
think
to
you need
hand
the
it
password.
in. We can give the API key as the environment secret that people have created.
And that's exactly what we did.
Oh my God.
But we just
Christ,
pass it
this
straight to
is
kill.
freaking awesome. I should read the whole thing before.
Yeah, and it's a matter of trying to make sure this gets into the other, like maybe we have a separate action that runs this. I'm not sure because it's the best way of how to add it into Kiln. But yeah, so like,
Where is it running Kiln?
so first step sets up DocAssemble.
Yeah.
And the
Oh,
sleep just
start
sleeps.
server state, start server take 2. Okay,
Yes, yeah.
got it. Oh my gosh, this is so do you know how thrilling this is? Sorry, I'm just so
Okay.
excited.
No, it's nice.
Okay, so like what's the next thing that needs to happen? Like what is the current problem?
The current problem is, where do we put this? Essentially,
Oh, I
like,
see.
so take 2, let me see what that looks like.
I have an idea.
Mhm,
We add it as another action,
mhm.
as another action, and we add an input. The default is false that says which action to use or whatever, right? Then we just have 2 separate jobs, and we do if whatever is true, then do the GitHub server, and if it's false, then do the old way, right? Or can we just do
That's
that?
not a bad idea.
Because that way it just integrates with what we already have. It's another if blah blah blah, so it's another kind of an exception, which I don't love, but like
So
that way
Yeah.
people don't have to, like, all they have to do is add another variable as
Well,
opposed
so
to like making their own workflow file, right?
but I guess that's the thing, is that it's like, okay, what does, because I can never remember, what does like the default workflow look like at the moment?
Is this version 5? It should be, right? This
Yeah,
is unit tests.
no, this is from forecast.
Oh, it is run. My screen is not keeping up with stuff.
Okay, so on branches, tag ignore, paths, etc. That's not gonna be in everyone's, that was stuff we added. Workflow dispatch thing. Job. Steps, checkout still stay the same. Use Kiln to run tests.
I mean, you
With-
would just do another width, right? You would just have an optional other width.
Yeah,
It's like
but so I guess the thing is, I was leaning towards,
server.
it was like you were saying, this isn't gonna be a thing that everyone will want to use.
Exactly. So, but they don't have to put it in. Like everyone can just keep their file this way. And in ours, we do an input that is optional that has a default value of false. And then if people want to use the DocAssemble thing, they look it up or we tell them or whatever, and they're like, oh, cool, we can do this. Then they put in use GitHub server, true,
Yeah,
right?
we could get rid of that conditional though. If we just did lit lab, ale kiln, and we had a different action within ale kiln, like we did ale kiln slash like Docker GitHub, or the worst name, but like Docker GitHub at 5, which essentially would directly reference a file that looks very
Have it
similar to this.
Repository.
Yes,
I think there's a way to be able to do
you could do multiple actions in the same
multiple
repository.
actions
Yes,
in the
we-
same repository, which would be ideal, really.
we can do that. I already do. I've done that in this where we have AL actions, and you have Paul monitor, publish, Python tests all in the same repo, and you refer to them with stuff like this. It's suffix lit lab slash AL actions slash the folder name, and
Okay,
then GitHub will look in that folder for something called actions. So if people want to just run normal AL kiln, they have normal AL kiln. And if they want to do AL kiln slash
they add the
Docker
folder.
GitHub, yeah, we make a folder. Yeah, we make a folder called Docker GitHub and put an action.yaml inside of it.
Sure, that sounds great. It sounds like it might have a bunch of duplicate code is the only thing, but that's fine.
I'm hoping that we can do just something that looks like this. Like there's nothing we could from AL kiln slash Docker GitHub, we could call AL kiln
That's true.
and do exactly what I'm doing here, and we just call AL kiln and be like, oh, look at localhost. This is the server you're dealing with.
We'll
And-
have to pass on all the inputs, like we'll have to accept all the inputs the other one accepts. And then we'll have to pass on all the inputs and their values.
What other inputs?
There's
Are
lots of
there?
optional inputs, like max time for server reload, max time per step or whatever.
Okay, that's fine.
Seconds per, like it's just, we're gonna have to repeat all of that. And then if that changes, we're gonna have to remember to update it in both places.
Okay, I see what you're saying. I feel like the simplicity of the code is more important than the simplicity of, or the lack of duplication of inputs.
Yeah,
One seems more mindless than the other, and it's a lot easier to copy paste things, whereas adding a conditional looks weird, honestly, in like the action YAML format, and it's very confusing to read, like this if stuff.
it really is.
So-
It is, but
I see. Okay.
we're gonna have to do like, scroll down.
Mhm. Just
Like
these
we're
three,
gonna
right?
have to do this here. Like, I guess we won't have to do that. I guess we don't have to do that. We just pass them on.
Yeah, we don't have to do that. We have to do something that looks closer to. Yeah, it would really just be like this with stuff. We would just have with like AL kiln version max seconds, AL kiln version colon
Inputs.
$$ like, yeah, inputs AL kiln version. And so that's pretty easy to copy. And it would be the one line there and then the additional like inputs at the top of the file.
I'm wondering if it's gonna do something weird, like give us other string values, like an empty string instead of a no value. You know what I'm saying? Like, but that should be the same. That shouldn't be. I'm just wondering if it converts it in between to something different. Like if one
good
gives us
question.
undefined and the other gives us an empty string.
Yeah, it's a good
But
question.
you know what? We could try. I mean, we could experiment. It's just,
I don't think it
Is that
would
just
because
me?
we already have to like go through this conversion of putting things in the environment variables.
it's true.
And so like if like kiln version is, or which one of these?
For some of these, I don't know why oh no, because we're making them environment variables. I understand. Okay.
Yes, yeah. But like this one, it's like required is false and it doesn't have a default. And so we automatically set it to blank.
Yeah,
like-
you know, we could make the default here as opposed to in the file. That's something, never mind, that's a different question. but
I don't
I've
think,
thought about
yeah,
it.
that doesn't feel like the best place to put a default if we're also
Okay.
need to assume that people don't set environment variables when they're running locally or something like that.
True.
Or on the
Yeah. We have
Playground,
max
playground.
seconds for setup default there, though.
we do, yeah. I did notice that when I was looking at the other required true stuff. I was like, I don't know.
Mm-mm. Wonder if we handle that, how we handle that in the,
I mean, it should just get set to. Like it defaults to 120 and then the environment variable gets set to 120 and we read it. And I'm assuming we have a thing that, oh, if the environment variable is undefined or blank, then we set it to 120 inside the file as well. So we.
I am
probably just don't
wondering,
need the
that's
default.
what I'm wondering if we actually do that, but I, nothing's broken.
Yeah,
I assume we do.
yeah. Timeout is
Yeah.
120. If it's something, then we try to parse float.
We should, yeah, we should remove that default value from the.
Okay.
Anyway, separate thing.
Yeah.
That I'm gonna forget about within about 30 seconds. They're not crucial. Okay. Let's try it. Yeah. Oh. Great. Nope, nope, no,
New
okay.
branch.
I know,
Okay.
but if the commit were like, the commit message for setup default in action.yaml, that's what I would love. Because
Okay.
it sounds like
fix
it's
that.
just removing. Okay,
I can fix that. It's in a branch. I can republish it, whatever.
okay,
It's now, but now it's a branch and now it will hang in my head and I can make my branches. Now it is.
all right. I think it's this branch. All right, whatever. We'll do that at the
Mm.
same time. That's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, like, let's do that. Let's make a folder with another
Mhm.
action. We can do it now or we can do it later, but let's just get it in there.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Bryce, we're so close. I can feel it. I can taste it.
I forget.
It would have taken me so long to figure out how the heck, what commands to put in there, which I'm very resentful of, by the way.
It's okay. It's weird.
Just
and
so you know.
confusing. None of it makes any sense. And it's all too much work for what it should be.
Like the rest of life.
So I should get into. I'm calling it Docker GitHub. We can,
Can we call it like GitHub server or something? And why does it have to be all uppercase? Like, why is it different from our other naming conventions?
it doesn't gotta be. Minor like thing that I had started doing for the AL action stuff was just make them all uppercase, but they probably don't have to be. Because it makes it look more like AL kiln is the thing that you're calling when you put it in one of your workflows. And so it's like AL kiln / another thing that you can call, like a class name or something like that, but it doesn't have to be.
Okay, maybe we can discuss that sometime. We're doing underscores instead of dashes
For
everywhere.
folder names too.
Or, I mean, yeah, I mean, look at yours. Right? All underscore monitor.
Okay.
Like,
Okay.
what I've started doing,
Mhm.
I know it's gonna tick everyone off in the world, is I've stopped doing anything other than snake case for everything. I just use snake case for everything except
Yeah. It's helpful, honestly. There doesn't need to be a ton of different ways. And it's like the complicated rules don't really help unless you have something automated that is enforcing them. And we don't, so. This is all on a workflow. Okay, so copy that. But it's now on a workflow. It needs to look like an action. Okay. Clean this up. No longer small doc symbol.
These,
Come on.
like in an isolate, maybe say like an isolated environment.
That's a good one. I wrote something and then. So 5 minutes to catch up. Okay. Oh, actually, that should just be. I'll just say isolated. That's
In GitHub, comma, an isolated environment. In a GitHub server or something. I was hope if we're doing description, I'd love server to be in there somewhere.
Okay.
It's too long, but I almost want to say avoids reload errors. But that's
That's fine.
okay. Avoids stock assemble reload errors. Just so like the rationale
Mhm.
is super clear. Why, wait, why are you removing inputs? Don't remove those
So you
inputs.
server URL through Dockassemble developer API key. You will never need to
Oh,
specify
right, that's
because we'll make all
true.
of them.
This is necessary to test pre-releases at the very least. Oh, okay, yeah, that's about it. Okay. Yeah. I'm not sure you can have N that way. It hasn't worked in the past.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah. Yeah, I'll take what we're doing here then. Check out.
And we don't need the email or password, I don't think.
Let me check out. People will check out real quick.
Oh, no,
Um,
you need the email and password. That's fine.
Yeah, I need email and password. It needs to still exist. We just can't. It doesn't need to be an input.
Instead of, oh, sure, go ahead.
What's up?
We don't need that, right? We said we aren't gonna need that.
We do need this. We don't need it for these, but we need it for these. I'm
I
just
see.
copying.
Got
I'm
it.
moving them around.
But couldn't you just put the string values in for some of it? like right there, like password and email could be just strings, because we're not passing it on to anything else.
Okay, that's right. Yeah, you're right.
So as the email, I might say, you know, user@example.com,
Okay.
and that
Right.
would just be in quotes, not in brackets. Yeah. At example.com. It doesn't need to confirm the email?
No.
Okay.
Because not every DocSymbols server is gonna have the ability to email people,
Oh,
so
interesting.
you can't make that assumption.
And it can't email when the admin's making it anyway.
Yeah,
That we are gonna need as an environment variable anyway.
you're right. Yeah, this is the one that we didn't change. Copy this exactly, because it needs to be right number of characters.
You need to have one test that's just for this, and I don't know how to do that.
Different workflow, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, we'll have another GitHub workflow, and we'll run a command that just uses one tag, so it just runs one test. So that's all it does.
Yeah.
But that will mean, I guess, we can't run that test locally at all. That's fine. Trying to think through the whole thing. So awesome. I'm gonna tell you it is 12:30 basically, so.
Yeah. Let me wrap up this as quickly as I can. All that. Yeah.
There was name. Okay,
No, I have. Oh,
I
that's.
see. Why does that require it every time? There must be a way to set it.
Oh,
So frustrating.
that. Password.
We. Oh, right, you have that. It's already set up. Space, do you need spaces around stuff? Miss a space?
Shouldn't. Consistency.
And it's using Bryce Wiley's small doc assemble. Is
Okay,
that
yeah.
what we want? Or were we
It
gonna do
doesn't
the
seem-
whole doc assemble
We
thing?
can just do hold. There's nothing wrong with just doing whole DocSymbols. It's besides the fact that it's slower. I'll go with and like it. Yeah.
I do prefer the faster thing. I'm just worried about you having to maintain it. We could do Bryce small doc assemble until we decide to change it, you know? But I just worry about you having to update with every update of doc assemble.
Yeah, there's a lot of issues with small that I hadn't. Isn't that's why like we could have had this months ago, and I was just stuck on small because I thought you needed it to run on GitHub on small.
Okay.
But there are a lot of other issues with small that people would eventually run into. We strip out a lot of extra stuff, like extra languages don't work with it and stuff like that.
Oh,
And
okay.
just because we're trying to make the
Translations.
download it a lot smaller. So yeah, like it loses out on some like features of DocAssemble It
Mm,
doesn't on other things. There's a lot of like for free things that we can get if we know we're just spinning up a server and bringing it down immediately. But I feel like I've talked to Jonathan about this, and specifically, he's been like, "Yeah, I have a lot of complexity in the like initial Dockassemble startup just because I don't want to have two different Docker files for like how things are deployed." And so he puts all the complexity when it starts up, and it adds like
ah.
that's like what adds the extra 3 minutes, or like that's
Would
what,
if
what
if
adds.
if we split it up for him, would he be into that, or he just doesn't want it at all?
It's one of those things I just don't think he wants it at all. He already has like it set up with Helm and Kubernetes and stuff, and that I don't think he wants to touch it. It's like him and like Python types. He just doesn't want to deal with Python types in the upstream Dockassemble. He doesn't want to deal with multiple Docker files. Like that's he wants to deploy how he wants to deploy. We could do other things, and if I was not leaving in 2 months, I would come down hard and I'd be like, yeah, I think the lab should start like taking more active maintenance and release. Like we should start releasing like our version of Dockassemble. It would be easier. Other people would use it. We could do a lot there. But I'm leaving in 2 months, and so I don't quite have a say in that.
Okay,
Or like what we'll be able to do long term.
yeah.
So this is
So
should be
sleep
fine.
needs to be much longer, yeah.
It doesn't probably need to be 10 minutes. Yeah, this
How
is one
much
of the
is that seconds or is that,
that's seconds. So that's
okay,
10
so
minutes.
that's 10 minutes. Can we do
It's-
math there? Never mind, that doesn't matter.
I don't think you can.
Okay. Anyway, go ahead.
Let's see if you can.
Do we want to do just 8 minutes? Because freaking 10 minutes is 2 minutes longer.
You cannot do that though.
Okay, that's fine. So
Or that's fine.
annoying.
Oh, because star does star is a glob. You can't do stars in bash.
Oh, right. But
No
it's
math in Bash.
context sensitive. Do we want to do just
Sorry.
a little shorter?
Yes, this needs to be less
Okay.
hacky in general. And the way to do that is to do a while loop. And I just didn't want to do that when I was testing this because I would run it and I'd just let it run in the background while I did something else. So we can make it.
Okay, can you just add a comment for a while loop or something? But yeah, just
Yeah.
8 times 60 is 8 times 6, which is
A 480.
36. What?
Should be 480,
Oh.
right?
480, probably.
Yeah.
I'll do the math while you carry on.
No, actually that. Yeah, because
Oh,
it's just
you're
6 times 8.
sure?
times
Okay.
10. Well, 6 times 8
It's
times
48.
10. Yeah.
Yeah, you're totally right. 100%. Until
So slow.
I don't know how you know that localhost was showing it's ready, but wait for 200 or something. Okay, lkiln / GitHub server.
No, we're already running. We're in that one and we're running Kiln from this. And I'm just realizing that I don't know if there's an easy way to be like, run this from this same branch that you're currently
Well,
on.
Well, I mean, that's what you did in the other one. I mean, oh, I see, at the same branch you're currently on.
Yeah.
Well, just do at version 5 for now. And
Okay.
you can add a comment that's like, research how to,
Yeah. You might, I don't know if GitHub lets you like string concat whatever you want to run. If it lets you do that, then we have like the branch or whatever ref we're on running this
Yeah.
one. So okay.
Okay.
This should have gone on a separate server, take it. It's still can, okay, we're good. And I don't actually think we need this, I was just sort of using it as assistance. I think if we do this, this should be
Well,
good.
I mean, we can do Docker logs just in, just in case. Like it'll give us more information. It's gonna be hidden in a little drop down anyway, I think. Maybe not, maybe it won't.
It's not, yeah, because it will be
Okay,
inside of the
never mind.
container,
Never
so we
mind.
will need it. Well, no, sorry, well. Were you saying? I think I missed what you're saying. We do need to specifically like print it here for it to be available to the user.
I was hoping it could be hidden away unless
It can kind of
they
be hidden
open
away.
away, open it up, like, but it won't really be hidden away. It'll
Yeah.
show in the tests, right?
Yeah, yeah. We'd have to spit it out to a file and add that file to the archives and whatever. I'll leave it here for now. I'll put it to do, put this in the archives.
But if people are using this, they should be aware.
Yeah,
You mean it, do you mean as an artifact? Create an
I
artifact
do mean
for
artifact.
this? So just
Yep.
create an artifact for this?
yes.
Okay. Free.
Oh. Oh, I just don't have it checked out here. Sorry, take two or something.
It's
Start server
something,
take two.
Start server take two. Did you do that without making a new branch?
I had made a new branch, but I realized I wanted it on this existing branch. I hadn't committed it yet, so I just stashed it and then popped back off on this one.
Okay.
Oh, it's merged issues. Observation.
And we're gonna need something in the change log, I think.
We will. This is not going
That's
to be
okay.
merged anytime soon.
Okay. No, it will be merged soon. Don't say that.
Well, I could.
Okay.
This is one of those things that I was like, probably.
I can do
Useful.
the change log. I can do the change log. That's fine.
Okay. Oh, package
and
touches. That's
we'll
the
write a
one.
workflow file for it a little bit later as well. That'll be a to-do.
Yeah.
What is going on?
Merge issues.
Okay.
That's fine. Just take upstream.
Do we have Puppeteer higher up or something? Yeah, we already have those. Okay.
Wrap is going to be different in like 5 business.
What are you looking for? Can you just delete shrink wrap? And like
I don't think
remake
so.
it?
Doesn't actually look that different, so it might be okay.
Okay.
Here still. Oh, just that.
Do you want to just add those to like, you did not add GitHub server, by the way. It's an
I know,
untracked
because I was
file.
unstashing is when this all happened.
Okay.
Um,
Do you have trouble with those files often? Do you want to add them to the git ignore?
I can, it doesn't matter too much.
Okay.
almost different, but whatever. Where's that going? It's anything right now. What the hell is this here for?
Maybe you just didn't update to. Version 5 things. Yes, staged.
Sorry.
Let's restore.
I just never needed that. I don't know why it was. I'm gonna link this. Oh, but I don't
It's a
know.
great idea.
Well, it's not really. I'm gonna delete the repo. I don't
Oh,
like having.
you are?
I don't like having just random repos that are like
Alright.
testing. I have to do this because GitHub Actions is not a.
Could you make a
can't test it.
gist? Could you make a gist with the code?
Well, okay, once the code is in here
It
and it
doesn't matter.
is elsewhere, it doesn't matter. Like we have existing things of it.
Okay, all right.
Okay. Committed.
Okay, so now I just work on the changelog, maybe the workflow file, and then is there anything else that needs to be done for it?
Quite a bit. Not quite a bit. Some, yeah. Let me. Sorry, I stopped sharing and then I did things that could have been shared. I'm gonna make a draft PR just so we can like write what needs to be done.
Okay. Gotta go. Well, I have a few more minutes.
Talked about this, so I'm gonna delete a lot of these default things. So yeah, we need to change log, the while loop when the server is starting. No 8-minute sleep. Config files kind of there and okay. I don't think there was too much else in the way. So yeah, I think that should be okay. I'm gonna do research how to. Okay, draft pull request. I have made a draft pull request. I will make the title better. There are a few changes in Kiln that I needed to make. Specifically, just letting things. Where was anything added? Oh, yeah, like installing packages on the server directly instead of installing yeah, instead of like installing things to the playground, which was not a thing we could do, but it's not a ton of extra stuff.
I don't know what that would like involve, but
You'll see that the changes to Kiln are already all in. It's just a matter of what we can get away with, like taking back out if we want to take things out again.
maybe I missed the full sentence you said before what still needs to be done, but I'll look at the video. That's fine.
Okay.
Just the something about what packages you install or something.
Okay, yeah.
And will people's things sufficiently install assembly line and stuff like that?
They should.
They should,
Yeah, that's one of those things that
as
like
long
I
as they
am,
did the requirements.
yes, as long they do have to do the requirements, but that's one of those things that it's like. Doing the requirements only helps you for assembly line, it's great, and you should always do the requirements.
Okay.
Oh, okay, I'm gonna have to hop off.
All right. So yeah, I'll watch the end of this again to kind of re-understand what it is you're describing, but awesome. I might ask you questions. All right.